Good evening. We'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us in our first ever virtual question and answer session that we are going to be providing for our incoming ninth graders, the class of 2025. We want to give a huge shout out to our tech director, Dean Gurrell, for helping us make this possible tonight. We know that in unprecedented times, it takes a lot of thinking outside the box to make sure that we are still easing all of those natural fears and anxieties that exist when we start talking about that transition to high school. So we again thank you for being here tonight. We're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Kelly Whitaker. I'm the principal here at Ottawa High School, and this is my third year here, and I do live in the community of Ottawa, and I can't wait to get to meet each of you and interact with you and your students as they journey through their time here and move on to their post-secondary opportunities. So I've got three of our counselors with us today, and we're going to start over here to my left, and we're going to do some introductions.
Hi, my name is Stella Tharp, and I'm the College and Career Counselor, and I'm also the CTE Coordinator for Ottawa High School. I live in Ottawa and have lived here for several years and have taught here for 21 years.
My name's Ashley Buxton, one of the counselors here. I primarily handle last names A through J. I'm very excited to welcome all of your students next year and can't wait to get to know them over the next 4 years.
And I'm Kara Gerhardt. I'm school counselor here, and I work with students with last names K through Z. I'm a former middle school teacher, so I am excited to see some of my former students up here.
Thank you, ladies. So we hope that you had an opportunity to view the presentations that were emailed to you by the middle school. You can also find those on the high school website. If you did not watch them or you didn't have an opportunity, that is okay. Just know that there were two presentations that were sent out, one that goes over general enrollment information, and then the other one goes over all of our CTE pathways, as well as a really cool opportunity that we have for students, which is called our C3 initiative. And that is where students can walk through Ottawa High School and graduate with both their associate's degree and their high school diploma. So that is something that if your student is interested in doing that at an extremely reduced rate, Mrs. Tharp is somebody that you want to reach out to personally about that. So she knows that your child is interested, and we typically start that going into your sophomore year. And then we work through the summer of your sophomore year and then all the way through graduation. So just wanted to give that program a little bit of a shout out because it's very unique and one that we're very proud of here at Ottawa High School. So we're going to go over just a little bit about how this is going to work. If you are if you are not signed in a Google account, your questions will automatically be anonymous. If you are signed in as a Google account, just know that you need to actually ask anonymously in order for that to be anonymous. Or if you don't mind that your name appears, by all means, you can ask your question and submit it, and then we'll just know who it is that is asking. That might help us a little bit if there needs to be some follow-up conversations. But if you don't feel comfortable to do that, also remember we sent out a link to a Google form, and on that Google form you can submit questions, or we're going to collect your phone number and your email address so we can reach out to you personally and individually if needed. On the next slide, this is right above our head is a link to a slide app. That is what you will click on to submit your questions for this evening. So you'll click on that link, and then that little text box that you're seeing right now will pop up. You can ask your question. Where you see that red circle, that is what you want to check if you want to ask your question anonymously. And then below that, you will see the other questions that have been generated for this evening. If there's a question that somebody else has asked and it is of interest to you as well, please make sure you give that a thumbs up. That will let Dean Gurrell know, because he's moderating this for us. That will let him know that, hey, there's a lot of people that are interested in the answer of that question, and we will absolutely make sure that we get that answered this evening. So with all of that being said, I think that we are ready to get started. So make sure that you're clicking on that link above our heads and starting to ask your questions. We did have a couple questions asked ahead of time. So Mr. Gurrell is going to put those on the screen and we're going to start addressing those. All right, the first question, is there an option to take a foreign language outside of OHS? Mrs. Tharp, our college and career specialist, is going to go ahead and tackle that question.
We have several opportunities to take foreign language, which also includes American Sign Language. Those are taken at different post-secondary institutions around, and a lot of students have to be aware if the class is offered during the day, then they have to be aware of where that is during their regular school schedule and how they can work that out. A lot of times students want to take it during the summertime, which is great if they offer it in the summertime or if the class makes in the summertime. The other thing to be aware of is if you look at our curriculum guide, it says that you need 2 credits. When we transfer that to college credits, that means you need to actually take 4 college classes, which would give you your 2 credits to meet that foreign language requirement.
And that requirement is only if you're going after,
Right.
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and that requirement is only if you're going after a Kansas scholar, or if you know that the post-secondary institution you need to go to requires foreign language. And so that's why it's always wonderful, even in the 9th grade, to start checking out possible schools that you might be interested in.
Foreign language is not a requirement to graduate from Ottawa High School. You will see in our curriculum guide that we talk about different honors that students can work towards to graduate with. It will say, can take a foreign language 2 years or be a pathway completer. So one of those 2 things to ensure that they can meet those honors requirements, but it is not required to be a graduate of Ottawa High School.
We're ready for the next question. Okay, so what happens if you decide to change your pathway during your high school career? Another great question. We're going to let Mrs. Tharp tackle that one as well.
Again, our pathways at Ottawa High School are designed with the idea that students need to explore. We want our students to explore as many options as they can. High school is a time to figure out what it is you like, what it is you dislike. When I was in the classroom, I would often have students, I taught early childhood, they'd say, I'm not going to work with those little kids again. And I would say, great, you learned that. So now maybe we need to focus. Do you want to work with middle school, maybe high school? And so that's the purpose of our pathways, is to allow you those opportunities to explore and to try out different things.
Ready for the next question? Hey, my son is wanting to go into political finance or investing. By looking at the classes offered for the higher grades, I realize that there are classes he needs to take now in order to get those specific classes like investing. So we can sit down with this person, but I'm also going to have Mrs. Tharp address this a little bit because our pathways are set up in a very particular way. And it's really nice because it's easy and smooth for students to move through those.
The CTE pathways are set up with 3 different levels. The first level is an intro level, and some of you may have taken some of those intro level classes at the middle school, which include career and life planning, intro to industrial tech, and computer apps. The second level in CTE classes are what we call technical level classes, and there's generally more than one option there. And so we like to encourage students to take those classes. And then the last level of class is called an application level class. And that's where the student gets to demonstrate in some sort of a work-based learning opportunity those employability skills and those technical skills that they've learned during the course of going through that pathway. And so, yes, you can sit down and we can map that out for you. As students work on their individual plans of study, they will map that out so that they know what they need to take each year of their high school experience.
And that's kind of a nice intro too, to add to this. We do student-led conferences here at the high school. So each spring, your student will sit down with their advisory teacher and a family member to go over that individual plan of study. And so really what we encourage the students to be doing as we're preparing for those are to look at the courses that they've taken, look at what they want to do, what is that goal that they have for themselves post-high school, and making sure that we are taking the courses and setting them up through work-based learning experiences to help them be the most prepared with that background knowledge that they will need as they venture out into the world after high school. So just know that we do those every year. It's an intentional time because we want parents to come to the table and collaborate with us to ensure that we're best meeting the individual needs of your students. We're ready for the next question. Is that correct, that the honors classes are still on a 4.0 scale and not considered a weighted class? We're going to let Mrs. Buxton address that.
Yes, so we are on a 4.0 scale. We do not have weighted classes at this time at the high school. So yes, honors classes are 4.0 scale. Next question.
Okay, a half credit is a semester-long class. Where can I find which semester, fall or spring? So if we sign up for debate, can he also do culinary essential or intro to LPSS and consumer personal finance? So this is a great question. So every year, as the principal of the building, I collaborate very closely with each of our department heads, and we determine based on enrollment how many sections of each course we're going to offer. So then I collaborate with our counselors, and we work together as a team to come up with what that master schedule is. So our courses that are a semester or a fall or a year long, that is something that we release typically towards the end of the school year when our master schedule is set. And then that allows us to put students into the courses that they are interested in. For example, debate is very specific. It's a co-curricular activity. So that course is always offered in the fall. Forensics is another co-curricular activity that we have, and it's a semester long, always offered in the spring. Robotics is a new course that we offered this year. Their semester of competition is the spring, so we always offer robotics in the spring. And we'll be able to work with your student through those individual things. Classes like culinary essentials, LPSS, consumer and personal finance, typically those are very popular classes, and we try to make sure that we're offering those both first and both second semester to do the absolute best job we can to meet everyone's individual needs. One tough thing about scheduling when you get to high school, and it kind of catapults into when you go to a post-secondary institution, we do our very, very best to meet the needs of all of our students, but there are times that it's difficult to do that. There are times that we have to make tough decisions, but that is why those student-led conferences are very important, as well as making sure that students are collaborating with our counselors to think outside the box and to work through those individual scheduling issues. Students get into those a lot more their junior and senior year, and not so much during their freshman and sophomore years.
In addition, that's why it's really, really important for students to list their alternative classes.
Yes.
That is one of the keys that help us figure out what it is that they want to take.
Can you repeat which counselors are for which last names? Absolutely, we can do that.
So I'm Miss Buxton. I have last names A through J.
And I'm Mrs. Gearhart. I have last names K through Z.
And then Mrs. Tharp has got a very unique role and an awesome role.
I get to take everybody, A through Z, that has any questions concerning CTE and especially any of our college classes.
We all work very closely together. So if anytime your student needs to speak with any of us, we are able to help regardless of last name, but we will work together to make sure that you and your student get the answers that you need.
All right, and just as a reminder that link above our head is where you can submit any questions that you have about the enrollment process, about courses that we offer, as well as questions just about Ottawa High School in general. We can answer those as well. While we're waiting for some questions to roll in, Mrs. Buxton has a couple things that we can go through because it's just important information that we want to make sure our families are aware of.
So I wanted to take some time to just go over the timeline of the enrollment process for your 8th grader. So next Tuesday, March 2nd, counselors will be coming over to the middle school and they will be meeting with your student in their science class. They will spend that time giving your student their enrollment form and going over what that enrollment form looks like. Ms. Gearhart put together a presentation, and if you haven't watched that, she goes into detail about how to fill out that form. When we come over, we're going to focus on the elective classes that they want to take. Required classes for a freshman are pretty easy. They will have a choice between either honors English or regular English. Their math class will be determined by the middle school, and those teachers should be having conversations with you and your students in the coming weeks. There's really only one option for science, and that's biology. We have one other option, but that again is determined by those students who have a different math than traditionally what a freshman takes, which is algebra. And then PE, which I know is always a topic of interest for the incoming freshmen. Everybody does take a PE here. There are some students who will be interested in taking our freshman weights. There is a prerequisite for that, and that is being a part of our summer conditioning program. Information about that program and the requirements to be able to take the freshman weights will come out later, closer to the summer, into the school year, for you and your student to decide if that's something you want to work towards. But when our counselors come over, they're going to spend some time going over the curriculum guide, introducing some of the pathways and going over some electives here that your student might be interested in. We do focus on having your student, their freshman year, take one fine art elective, so a full year of fine art classes, or a credit. And then same with practical art. They will take one credit of practical art. Those two requirements are issued by the state of Kansas, and that's what you need to graduate from Ottawa High School, is one full credit of a fine art, one full credit of a practical art. We like for our students to take care of that their freshman year. So if they decide that the practical arts are not for them, they could do the rest of their years focusing on fine art, and vice versa. The curriculum guide goes over the difference between a fine art and a practical art. For example, fine art includes our theater classes, music classes, your traditional art, both 2D, 3D, some speech options as well. Practical arts are going to be where you find our pathways. Anything else you guys want to add about the timeline for next week?
Remote students will also be participating in these activities. They'll just need to make sure that they're logged into their science teacher's big blue button during the appropriate hour, and we will be able to interact with those students. Students who are remote can always make a copy of the enrollment form, which is in the presentation, but we will be contacting those students and providing an enrollment form virtually so that they have access to it as well.
If you've gone through the enrollment process before with us, you have a student that has already come through the high school. One thing that we're going to do different this year with the incoming freshmen is we are not going to have those students put their selections in Skyward. Traditionally, that is something we've done in the past, but just with our condensed time that we have with your student this year, we would love to use that time next Tuesday, having those conversations about classes that they would like to take, versus having them try to learn how to put everything in Skyward. So your whole goal after the second is to work with your student on getting that form completed. The form will be turned back in to Mr. Skirman at the middle school by March 9th. And then that will come back over to us. If we have any questions regarding the form or need to just follow up with you, we'll be in touch with you in the next few weeks. Anything else with the timeline? Okay.
I think so. Right. Will there be more time for my kid to walk the building to get familiar with it?
Oh.
Yes, that is an awesome question. So every year we are committed to make sure that our 8th grade students get an opportunity before the end of their 8th grade year to come over to the high school. At the high school, we have a unique part of our day called Cyclone Hour. It is in the middle of our day, and it is a time where students either eat their lunch or they're able to have access to their teachers to get extra help. Unfortunately, it has looked a little different this year due to COVID-19, but we are hopeful and we are continuing to monitor the situation. And hopefully by next school year, that will be able to be something that is a more formal, more back to normal into what we were used to. So we will invite your students over here. Mr. Skirman will bring about 25 students at a time, and they will be here during Cyclone Hour. They'll get to meet some of our students, and they will get to walk around with some upperclassmen during that time. The other thing that we do offer at USD 290 is at the beginning of next school year, there's a half a day, and that is a day of school that only our incoming freshmen and our brand new students attend. So we go through a series of activities on that day. We make sure that they get a tour of the building. We also make sure, what's most important, that they get to walk through that schedule and they have a pretty good idea of where their classes are before everybody comes back to school on that next day. We also, we love that if you reach out to us and if you feel like your student needs more than that, please do not hesitate to contact us, because that is something that we can do in the summer. Mr. Lancaster and Mr. Phillips, two of our assistant principals, they work most of June, and they absolutely can give additional tours for students if that will help ease anxieties or just be able to allow students to see our building. So don't hesitate to reach out to us about that, and we will absolutely make sure that the students get in our building as much as we can prior to the start of next school year.
One thing that we are also putting together is a transition presentation. We will release that around the same time that your student will be invited to come over here and visit the school. We will give information about all the sports, activities, clubs, different things. We will also take time to introduce ourselves, our administration, and just kind of give them all of the information that they might want to know about Ottawa High School. If you or your student have questions or topics that you want covered in that transition presentation, feel free to email any one of us and we will make sure that that is included because we want to know what their questions are and what they're interested in.
I think another piece we'd like to add is if your student thinks they're going to be a college athletic and involved in a college athletic sport, that we have implemented our NCAA guidelines. There is a slide for that shows you both NCAA guidelines, also NAIA guidelines, and also the community college guidelines for playing sports and what's required. So that information is available, and we can answer questions about that.
So any other questions, do not hesitate to click that link above our head, and you can submit that either anonymously or with your name.
One question that we've gotten in previous years is just kind of how our schedule works over here. We operate on a 7-class period a day schedule. As Ms. Whitaker mentioned, we have a unique time of the day, Cyclone Hour, right in the middle. So students go through on Monday through Thursday, hours 1 through 4. Then everybody has Cyclone Hour at the same time. And then after Cyclone Hour, we go hours 5 through 7. On Friday, it does look a little bit different because we have the half day. We also have an advisory period. So students go 1 through 4, then they go to their advisory period, then have Cyclone Hour, and then finish out their day 5 through 7. So something just a little bit different than what you guys are used to over at the middle school.
And each student will get an advisory teacher, that the goal is for that student and that teacher to stay together all 4 years so that they can establish that relationship and so that the student can have that support person in our building.
It's also helpful to have the same advisory teacher when we're going through our individual plans of study, and individual advisory teachers are helping students make their plans and fill out their enrollment forms. It just keeps it consistent.
In the past, we've also had some students and parents wonder about the eligibility policy over here. We could talk a little bit about that. I think it mirrors what is done at the middle school, Ms. Whitaker. Yeah. So to be involved in sports and different activities here, we do have, I believe, the same policy that the eligibility policy the middle school has. So grades are still very much important over here, and making sure that you are eligible to participate in all that Ottawa High School offers. Another question that we always get is, what happens if I fail a class? So we build in some wiggle room for that. To graduate from Ottawa High School, you have 24 credits that you need to be able to graduate. We understand that in high school, like Ms. Tharp said, this is a time to figure things out. Sometimes you might have a hard semester, just things happen. And sometimes students have a class or two that they fail. We have a little bit of wiggle room in there to work with your student through that. So if a student is not doing as well in a class as you would like them to, and it does not look like they are going to pass, it is not a moment where that they won't finish. We will work with you and your student. We have lots of options available to recover credits and get through different situations.
And when you look at our graduation rate over the last few years, it has tremendously increased. And that is because of all the hard work that our staff, administrators, and counselors do to make sure that our students are successful.
Absolutely. Something that your student will participate in at the beginning of the year. We have a Renaissance program here. It's through Jostens, which is the company that we work with through our graduation process. And the Renaissance Club is sponsored by Mrs. Kane, and their main function, their goal is to ensure that the climate at Ottawa High School is positive, that students feel safe and students feel a part of our community. On a normal school year, when there's not COVID-19, your student will tell you that during advisory, we have a lot of assemblies. We typically have 3 assemblies per semester where we bring our entire student body into the gymnasium and just for different reasons. Sometimes it's for our homecoming assembly. Sometimes it's simply just to get together as a school and play some games and have some fun and recognize students for a variety of accomplishments throughout that time. The Renaissance Club, I think it was 3 years ago now, they came to us, a group of students, and they wanted to start talking about with freshmen what it means to make a commitment to graduate and walk across the stage at the end of their 4 years at the high school. So part of that half day with our freshmen, we go over a presentation and we really talk to them about what is the value to them and why is it important to them to graduate for high school. And we have these really awesome banners that were designed by students, and every year we ask the freshmen to make a commitment to themselves and to their family to make that a goal that they want to walk across that stage in 4 years. And they sign that banner, and those banners are hung in our Cyclone room. And some of you may have been here for different sporting events and you see them hanging. Then we take that banner down at the end of their senior year and we display that out by the stage when they walk across for graduation. There's also a banner in the middle that says whatever it takes. And our teachers at Ottawa High School, they're called staffalty, and that is a term that is used in the Renaissance world. And staffalty is every adult in our building that means something to your student, whether that's a custodian, a coach, a paraprofessional, a secretary, a teacher, an administrator, a counselor, any adult that does a lot for them to be successful here. We talk a lot about collective efficacy, and we need to work together as a staff in order to provide amazing opportunities for your students. And so we talked about that, and we all took a pledge that we would do whatever it takes to help students be successful here at Ottawa High School and as they make that commitment to graduate. So that is a really unique opportunity, something that we started a few years ago. Our students love it, our teachers love it, and it's just another way to help bring us together as a community, especially during these trying times that we are facing currently. Where can I find more information on the associate's degree program? Awesome question, and I'm going to let Mrs. Tharp go ahead and address that.
If you look in the curriculum guide, at the very end of the curriculum guide, it talks about some of the classes that a student would need to take. There's also a sample program that kind of lays out for you how the associate's degree would work through Neosho County.
And where can they find the curriculum guide?
The curriculum guide is listed in the presentation that was sent, and it's also at USD 290 website, the Ottawa High School portion, underneath the counselors tab. In the top part of the website, there's some links for enrollment, and the curriculum guide is listed there.
And that guide will be so useful when you're going through the enrollment process. You will find that not only does it give you all of the requirements that you need for graduation, but it also gives you detailed explanations about each of the classes that we have here at Ottawa High School. It'll tell you what grades classes are available for. It will also tell you if a class has a prerequisite, what that is. It will just kind of lay out everything, not only for this year as you're preparing your incoming freshmen, but if you guys want to start planning for what their high school career will look like, you can start doing that with that curriculum guide because it has everything you will ever need to know about the classes offered here at Ottawa High School.
The curriculum guide is updated every year. And so every year I meet with our department chairs and we look at what we're offering. We look at the pathways that we are offering. We look at ways to expand opportunities if we need to for students. We also evaluate what our pathways are. And maybe we have a pathway that's not of interest of our students anymore. And we make sure that we're looking at what the state is offering and rotating those in as we are able with our current staffing. And so we make that presentation to the school board, Mrs. Tharp and I do every January. And then right around enrollment time, we release to parents and students what that updated curriculum guide looks like, what new courses that we have offered, or any adjustments that we have made to the courses. So it's really important that you know that. Because every year when your student's enrolling in courses, you do want to look at the curriculum guide because often there are not a lot of changes, but there are several changes every year depending on the interests of our students and our ability to have a staff member who is able to teach that course.
For example, this year, one of the additions to our curriculum guide is in our marketing pathway. And we have added a sports and event marketing class, which is going to help us with the production of our sporting events so that our students can learn how to provide to provide those activities to our patrons of USD 290. And they will also learn a lot of other skills, but they're going to be involved in that process. So it's not just Mr. Grell having to do it all. So again, it's taking what we're using in our school and teaching those skills to our students so that they can take those skills and then add to them if that's something that they like.
Also in our curriculum guide, if you start on page 6, there is some great information about what it is to graduate from Ottawa High School with honors. There are 3 different categories for you and your student to look at and to map out if that is something that you guys would like to do. It is important to note with graduating with honors, it does not mean that you are guaranteed scholarships, but you do get recognized at graduation, both in our program. We will announce your student. They also get a medallion showing that they took that rigor and that they were awarded that honors designation. On page 7 of the curriculum guide, you will also find the Kansas Scholars curriculum. Do you want to talk a little bit? I know we talked about it in the presentation, but do you want to talk a little bit about Kansas Scholars?
Kansas Scholars just has a few differences. When you look at Kansas Scholars, students sometimes think, oh, this is what I have to do. And that's true. But we've also added some courses over the years that we didn't have in the past. So, for example, we have college biology, which was not included, but now we include it in our high school honors. And when you look at the list of classes from the Kansas honors, we try to match those up as close as we can and provide those opportunities.
And then page 8 of the curriculum guide also talks about qualified admissions. So if your student is interested in going into one of the 6 state schools, you can look at this page, which gives you the information needed to review applicants for undergraduate admissions at those schools. So for example, most of them operate on the same requirements needed. KU, K-State have a couple different callouts related to GPA or the courses needed to be able to enter into those programs. But if that is a goal of your students to attend one of those institutions, you will definitely want to pay attention to the qualified admissions page, which is on page 8 of the curriculum guide.
In addition to that, we happen to offer at Ottawa High School the opportunity to take the ACT. Your junior year, we just finished that a couple of days ago, and also the work keys, which are 2 assessments that are used across the United States. And it just helps our students understand where their skill level is and how they can use that information both in the workplace and with post-secondary schools. In addition to that, we also have at least twice a year, we have specialized ACT classes that help students learn some skills and some techniques to help them be more successful on the ACT. Those are usually held at the end of the first quarter on that Friday workday, and then again sometime during the second semester. And so we can always talk to you about ACT, help your child, your student, figure out when's the best time to take it, where they can take it, and some other things in association with ACT and work keys.
As a freshman, students will take the pre-ACT, and that definitely gives them some insight as to what that ACT test would be like and what it's like to test for so long. It will also provide feedback so students know areas of strength and areas that they can improve upon.
Go ahead and talk about PSAT.
PSAT is another assessment that we do offer here to our sophomores and our juniors. So if that's something that you are interested in, that's something that you can sign up for when you get to that point in your high school career.
One thing to know, we'll answer this first. Will students have lockers next year? That's a great question. We do have lockers at Ottawa High School. We have 2 banks of them. We don't have many students that want to engage in those. A lot of that, really truly being able to answer this question is going to be as we see what our guidelines are to reopen schools again next year. This year, it was not recommended that you have students utilize lockers only in extreme situations due to gathering and the number of students in the hallway. So we'll be able to answer that question a little bit more clear when we get closer to the start of the year and we get those new guidelines for what it's going to look like opening school with COVID-19 and where we are with that. I don't remember what I was going to say. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Had a little brain.
Students will have a PE locker though.
Yes, freshman students have a PE locker. And a lot of times our students find an adult that they like and they work with them to keep things up. We will absolutely make sure that we work with students who are a little anxious about that if we can't have lockers for next year, but we do still have some lockers in the building.
And I think we also need to talk about PE in ninth grade. It's not just PE, it's also health. And so they take both of those at the same time. That each of the PE teachers does it a little differently, but they do have a health requirement and then the PE requirement.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Students only have to take PE health their freshman year. We do have physical fitness electives that they can take, weights, fitness for life, if they would like to continue on taking some of those classes after their freshman year. But it is only a requirement their freshman year.
And they can only take one PE class each year.
Yes, we have some kids who want to take fitness for life, weightlifting multiple times a day. And we appreciate the effort, but can't do that. So one question we've gotten in the past, and I'm going to ask it to Ms. Tharp, is does my student have to complete a pathway to graduate from Ottawa High School?
And the answer to that question is no, they do not. It is just an opportunity that we offer. A lot of our pathways at the end have what we call end of program certifications, which allows students to get certifications that they can use. So for example, at the end of our health science pathway, a student can take CNA and CMA, and if they pass the state tests, they will have their CNA license or their CMA license. Our welding kids get level 1 and level 2 welding certificates, along with their OSHA 10 certifications that can be used wherever they want to go. Just about every pathway has an assessment of some kind, and all of our pathway classes have a pre and a post test that they take, which is from precision exams. And if they pass that test, they will get a certificate listing the skills that they were able to pass when taking that test, which is useful in a lot of different situations. For example, in early childhood, if you can say that I passed these skills, some of our providers around in the community will say, okay, I know this is what you can do, and they get hired.
Yeah. Any other questions? Make sure that you hit that link above our head to submit those, and you can submit those anonymously or with your name attached to them if you would prefer.
Ms. Whitaker, I'm going to put you on the spot,
Okay.
but do you want to talk a little bit about our STEM bus that we have going on here and why that's so exciting for Ottawa
Yeah, I
High
can
School?
talk about that. So your students might have an opportunity, depending on what pathway that they join next year. We have a very unique position in our building. We have a technology integration coach. So we have an adult in our building who her main function is to collaborate with not only our teachers, but our students, and use the technology and figure out how to best use technology to expand what the students are learning. And so she came to us last year. I wish we have a picture to show you. It'd be a little bit easier to talk about. But it's we've taken an old school bus, and our students in our agricultural programs, our wood shop, and our auto mechanic shop, those students have completely gutted that bus down to studs and wheels, and they are in the process of rebuilding it And the hopes is that that bus is going to, once it's put back together, it will travel around to our elementary schools, and our high school students will be taking our pathways to those elementaries and doing mini lessons. And so our technology students might be doing lessons on cybersecurity, and they might be doing lessons on some different coding techniques that they utilize. Our early childhood education students might be going on that bus one day over to Garfield Elementary just to do a lesson with the kids about maybe something in history or something in science that they're studying in the classroom. But it's in hope to be able to enhance what is going on in our younger grades, give our high school students a pretty unique real world experience to where they get to be the experts of that knowledge and teach our little ones, and also help our elementary teachers as well as our students and our families see all of the pathways and all the career opportunities and the different things that we offer here at Ottawa High School. And so it's a really awesome project. We've talked a lot about it at Board of Education meetings. One thing I want to mention is that if you are not a follower of the Ottawa High School Facebook or Twitter page, those are places that we post a lot of information. We know that social media is huge. A lot of parents go to social media for things. We utilize our website. Get used to going to the Ottawa High School website, because anything we post on there, we also push out to Twitter and we push out to Facebook. But we post information out. We also send home a monthly newsletter called the Cyclone Connect. Every month when that goes out, I also send out a phone call letting parents know that, hey, that has hit your inbox. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you check that Cyclone Connect out. And I usually try to give a little general idea of what is in that newsletter from month to month. So it's really important. High school is tough because we start giving information to kids, and we know that our students aren't always the best stewards of getting that information back to their parents. We truly believe here at Ottawa High School that each and every one of you are an integral part of your child's success while they're here at the high school. Yes, they're high school students, and we want them to start advocating for themselves, and we want them to start communicating because they're going to get ready to enter that world of work someday where they need to do that for themselves. But we want you all to be on that ride with the student, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the same information that we're giving your students from month to month. I send out a lot of emails. We do phone calls. We have our monthly newsletter, and our social media and websites are really the best way to stay on top of what's going on at Ottawa High School. So we wanted to make sure that we note that, so you know the best ways to just know what's going on here to best support your student through their journey.
And I would also like to add, we have a lot of community support in this building. So, for example, in our fire science pathway, we have two firemen from the city of Ottawa that actually teach that class. And we have our SRO that helps in our law and LPSS class. So we provide that. And we also have some other people that help us, for example, with our Student of the Week, which Mrs. Whitaker shares each Wednesday on COFO.
Kansas State Bank.
Kansas State Bank. But she shares on COFO who those winners are. And teachers submit those nominations, and then students are chosen for that particular award each week. We generally have two.
Mm-hmm. So get those last minute questions in. And just something that I would like to say to anybody who's out there viewing is that coming to Ottawa High School 3 years ago, I was absolutely blown away by the number of opportunities that we are able to offer students despite being a 4A school. We have more learning opportunities through our pathways, through our concurrent agreements with different post-secondary institutions like Neosho Community College and Allen Community College. We also collaborate with Flint Hills Technical School. We have more of those offerings for students than most 5 or 6A schools locally here in Kansas. We can't always meet the needs of everybody, but we try our best to do a pretty darn good job of collaborating with our community and making sure that we're providing your students with everything that they need to be successful once they leave our high school and walk across that stage at the conclusion of their 4 years. Our teachers work extremely hard. Without them, we couldn't offer the plethora of programs that we do. they very rarely will a teacher tell me no when I walk into a room with a crazy idea about a new program or a new work-based learning experience that we can offer to your students. And so we are always looking to grow. We are always reflecting on our processes and trying to get better. And we pride ourselves on being an innovative school district and an innovative building, because we know that the world of work that your child is going to enter someday is going to take a different level of skill than what any of us in this room did when we were in high school, and anything that you engaged with when you were in high school as well. And so we take great pride in what we do, and we always are reflecting on our practices and trying to get better. Any last questions that you might have for us about the enrollment process or anything at Ottawa High School? I'm trying to think about anything else that we haven't covered.
One question in the past that I always remember that we get on this night is the students are always very interested in, do I bring my computer over? What happens with that? Your student will actually, the computer that they have over at the middle school, they will turn that in at the end of the year when they come over to us at the high school on that half day that we have at the very beginning of the year. They will be issued a new one. The teachers in the building like to joke that we're a little jealous because they get the fancy ones. We don't get the fancy ones, but they will be issued a new one at the beginning of the year. Email will stay the same from what they had at the middle school. We do communicate largely with our students through email. So if they are not an email checker, I would work with your student and encourage them to get in the habit of checking their email. That is how we as the counselors reach out to students. We don't want to always pull them from class. It's the best way for us to get large amounts of information out to all of our students. So they need to get in that habit now.
Another thing to be aware of, your student will be entered into a grade level Google Classroom. That is a place that they will utilize over the 4 years that they are here. There's different announcements that are posted by the counselors. Their grade level Google Classroom is extremely important their junior and senior year, because we post information about upcoming ACT tests, about upcoming ACT classes that we're offering. We also post a lot of information about scholarships that are available not only in our community, but also just in the state of Kansas or nationwide scholarships that we are made aware of. So know that your child will be a part of a grade level Google Classroom, and that's really, really important when they become juniors and seniors. And we want to make sure that parents realize that we do that, because that's the best way that we can communicate with students, because they don't love to check email. But sometimes they don't mind getting into Google Classroom because it feels more like social media and it's not so much clicking through and skimming and reading the emails. So just be aware of that. We will make sure your student joins that at the beginning of the year, and that is something that we update from school year to school year with all the students in that particular grade level.
I just had a new question come up.
Oh, perfect.
So someone has posted a question in our Google form in our presentation. It might be specific to this student. The student might be interested in veterinary medicine, and we're asking what pathway they might want to complete.
There's a choice there. Actually, we have a lot of students at Ottawa High School that actually complete 2 pathways. So they might want to go ahead and take a look at the ag pathway, but they also probably want to take a look at the health science pathway. And so taking a look at courses in both of those pathways, we also might have to do some individualization there. So for example, we have a student this year that has finished the ag pathway and is all of a sudden interested in vet. And so we took a look at that, and they are now taking a class from Allen County to kind of a prereq to help them get to where they want to go. And so while we have things that are set out, we also very much try to individualize whatever a student may need to the very best of our abilities.
Any other questions? This presentation will be posted on the YouTube channel for the high school, for the district. And so this will be saved. You'll be able to go back and rewatch this presentation. If you have any friends that might have missed the presentation, they can go back and view it. We are also going to keep the Google form live that we sent out the middle school sent out to you in our enrollment information. So you can click on that Google form in the email that was sent out by the middle school and submit maybe individualized or more personal questions there. And then we will be able to reach out to you via your phone or your email, because we do collect both of all of that information so we can best meet your needs. We are going to get your students, get enrollment finished with your students. Then we're going to invite them in to the building in April. We'll get more general information out to families and students about our clubs and our offerings and just some general ideas of what it's going to be like to be a student at Ottawa High School. And then we may offer another one of these evenings towards the end of the school year, just as you all are truly wrapping your minds around the fact that you're getting ready to be a parent of a high schooler. We are super excited that you are going to share your young people with us and that we get to be a part of that special journey as they figure out who they are, figure out what they want to be. And we always tell kids it is absolutely okay not to know the answer to any of those questions. And it is absolutely perfectly normal not to even know quite exactly what you want to do when you're a junior and senior. And like Mrs. Tharp said, our job is to give them a variety of opportunities to try to better prepare them to make those decisions as they get close to their senior year. So if we don't have any other questions, I don't know any other information that we could go over tonight. But we absolutely appreciate our tech director again and our awesome tech department at USD 290 for making this night happen. We appreciate each and every one of you who have tuned in and given us an opportunity to tell you a little bit about Ottawa High School. I apologize that we can't gather in a large group due to the current pandemic we're living in, but as we start getting more normal times back and we start getting new guidelines, we will be adjusting the things that we are doing as well.
We'll also be, with the enrollment sheet, we will be giving you another sheet that has our email addresses. So if you have specific questions, you won't have to go look for it. We'll just give you that information.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. And if there's no other questions, I think we'll go ahead and have Mr. Grell sign us off. We hope that all of you have a wonderful evening. And again, we can't wait to see our students in the fall as they come to Ottawa High School as the class of 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.